Here's Bistro.
To
Here
introduce.
you are.
There he is.
Bistro.
Good afternoon. Good evening. It's 2 minutes past 7, and it's nice to see you all here, my little squares, so to speak. Why you bunch of squares?
Not always, Mr. Ron.
I'm just reading the picture in front of my very eyes. It's nice to have you all here, and thank you for being subscribers to our magazine, our GNUS newsletter. Those of you who like words on plays on puns, that's a good one. GNUS, spelled pronounced news. Um, and there, Miss Penny mentioned there are a lot of questions, and they're still coming in as we speak and type. So I'll get to as many as I can, and I'll try to make them as brief, so I'll have more time to answer each and every one of your questions. And those that don't get answered tonight, as she said, and I swear by her word, despite me doing the work, that I will answer them all once they get to my desk, which is right now, I'm sure it is because there are four things hanging down. I figured that must be my desk. All I can see is the paperwork on top. So, the head of my paper is questions for May 10 Zoom calls. So, what I'll do, I'll just read the name off, and if you're in the neighborhood and within the sound of my voice, uh, just say here so I can know that either I can see you or I can know that you're here to hear my voice and hear your question asked, even though I may not be able to see you given how many squares I'm looking at. So, okay. Um, let's see. The first question is from Leo, a 16-year-old from Australia. Leo, if you're here, here goes. Uh, my question is, have you heard of gut strings and do you recommend them? Leo, my first bass I had two gut strings on top. They were made by Golden Spiral. The bottom two were A and E, made by Tonastic, the black wound orchestra strings. And I used those strings up until the time that Golden Spiral got to the Viennese company, uh, Tonastic, and they were made very terrible then. So I sent two sets back. I explained to them that the quality had taken a big nosedive, gone the wrong way. Could they send me an additional set or a different set? Well, I never got in touch with them. I never got any response from them. And just at that time, as fate would have it, Attila Zoller, who was one of the Hungarian musicians who escaped during that purge of the government, uh, had a gig downtown, and we started talking. He said he's inventing some bass. He's inventing some guitar strings. Did I want to help him? Well, I said, yeah, I'll help you. So we sat down and
Can everyone mute themselves, please?
met him out.
Whoever's phone's ringing.
Okay. So
Thank you.
we agreed to do that, and we worked for about a year on the strings that we call Labella 1700 7710. They're black nylon strings with a steel core wrapped in silk. And I've been using those strings since 1970. Uh, I love the quality. I love the clarity. Their strings, they're difficult to bowl, but I put the time in to get a really good bowl sound. And I've tried several different kinds of rosin and different kinds of combination of bow hairs. But Leo, I haven't used gut strings, man, since 1968. I loved them when they were there. They weren't as good anymore, and I don't miss them. Labella is my set number 7710, as in nylon. Thanks for your question, Leo, and I hope you're awake in Australia, wherever that is. The Trevor Stewart. Okay, here we go. Um, let's see. My question is about note choices and rhythmic articulation. I'm working on a few standards like autumn leaves and rhythm changes, all the things you are, and Tender Madness. What are the various approaches and articulation I should be aware of? Well, Trevor, that's such a general question. That kind of question depends. My answer would tell you what to answer your question would depend on the rhythm section. How big is the group? Are your group members harmonically aggressive? Are these guys who always want just one, two, three, four, and don't give me anything more than that? Do they only want roots on the downbeat? Do they want you to play FC for F chord until they can't stand it? I mean, it depends on what their needs are. Uh, does the drummer ever use brushes? Does he just love to play mallets, which is one of my bane, bane of my existence? When I came to New York, I was working with a really famous drummer who had a big solo every night. I was Tad Dameron tune, and on that solo, he pulled out the mallets. I thought he was mad at me because he really beat me up every night with these gosh darn mallets, you know. So they're not my friend. So to answer your question, Trev, it depends on the kind of group you're in. What are their interests harmonically? What are their interests rhythmically? What's your skill level? Are you able to play alternate changes and know how to make them work? Can you play a three against four and not lose the order of the changes and where the beat's falling? How well do you know the bass to make the be where you are for those different kind of notes you want to find? Do you know harmony? Do you play any kind of keyboard at all to have a sense of what the C7 looks like on the piano, where those notes are? Those kind of questions, Trevor, you have to answer for yourself. And then when you get some answers, then you ask me the question again and see how you rephrase it. I'm sure I can help you better then. Leo Arianza. Leo, I can't see you, but I hope you're here. And here we go.
Greetings.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
Yeah.
No kidding. He waved too.
Yeah.
And that's a very hip square. I don't know about you other people, ladies and gentlemen, but that's a hip square right there because he did like this, you know? Okay, Leo, if I get this right, don't stop me. Okay. Everyone has their favorite ensemble that you have been a part of. One of mine, the favorite, is the recordings you made with Charles Lloyd and Gabor Sabo, of course, of course. What was it like working with them? Leo, two things. Uh, I only made one weekend with that particular ensemble. Charles had just left Chico Hamilton, and the band had kind of broken up, and they had gone their way. And Gabor had just joined Lena Horne,
Mhm.
and what a wonderful player he was. Uh, but the record date was like we just going to work to play some music. I had no thought that how important it was going to be, and of course I knew Charles from working with him with uh, Chico Hamilton. I had done a date with Gabor, playing his kind of Hungarian gypsy jazz, which is really slick, you know.
That's right.
Uh, but you know, when I get those questions about how was it to play with those guys on the gig, most of these records I made, I had never made any gigs, or still not have not made any gigs with them. I never played a gig. I played two nights with Wes Montgomery, although I made a lot of records with him.
Wow.
And I made maybe two gigs with Paul Desmond, but I made a lot of records with him.
Wow.
Uh, but that's where the industry was at that time. They wanted someone who could do whatever I'd do for a date, and they didn't mind to call me, and I accepted the challenge. I was always surprised to get calls from people who I did not know personally, and who never been to a gig that I knew of, and that they would decide that my presentation, my presence, um, would be another necessary item to help their project reach a level of fruition and satisfaction that they hoped to attain. And I haven't said no to too many of those opportunities, and I'm still saying no very reluctantly now. So, all you squares, take a hint of that. Yeah.
That's right.
Uh, but that's a good record, of course. Of course, that was one of Charles at the time Charles's pet phrase.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, and Charles had his own world, and it was okay to be invited. I wasn't offended, and I know I could leave whenever I wanted to. And, uh,
That's,
and since I was only a bass player, I had the key. So,
that's
it's kind of like being in a locker room and all the clothes in the same locker, and I had that key. So it was fun. I I love those
That's
guys.
great.
And I'm sorry, I haven't seen Charles in about 7 years since he came back from his vacation, his hiatus. And I look forward to seeing him at some point. I hear he's playing really well. And of course, Tony left the concert many years ago, and Gabor left also. So the music lives despite those guys because we have wonderful records and memories.
All
Thank you
right.
for the
That would
question.
be nice to see.
Yeah, well, I'll see them at some point, but you won't be here.
Very
Leo, thanks for the question. I hope I got it right.
Thank you so much. I'm very humble and honored to be just interacting with you this way. And I look forward for you to come back to Baltimore anytime soon.
Well, as soon as the Keystone Corner gets it worked out and the governments, the local governments allow that kind of interaction with audience being over 6 people and the musicians can play live without the mask on, I'm happy to come back and enjoy the food with that wonderful chef. And I hope that you people help the club to last through these very difficult times so that people like me and anyone else who enjoys the room and who loves to support the music and Todd Barkin will happily come
Oh
back.
yeah.
Some nice
Well,
people.
your music has helped a lot.
Thank you very
So
much.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's see how I can do this now. I, Leo, nothing personal, but I cross you off my list. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, I got to ask, man. Let's see. Here, Rick, I would like to know what strings you use. I kind of got part of that already. Rick, if you're still in the neighborhood, there he is. Okay, Rick Hicks. Is that correct? Just wave. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. There's 77 tens made by Labella. They can only come in one diameter for each string. They're not a variety of diameters, but they used to have in the old days. They have great harmonics. They have a lovely sustain. They start off very bright, like most new sets of strings do, but you have to play them and wear them, to break them in. Um, the more you play it, the quicker they round out and get darker and get even more warm. I love that sound. And they make great sounds on records. As you can tell if you've kind of listened to a couple I made about 3 or 4, but they have it's a good demonstration of how they sound. One of the reasons I also love them, it makes me be able to sound like me. I was always distressed that when I tried all metal strings, a metal, it sounded like everybody else. And I said, it just didn't feel okay to spend all this time devoting yourself to having a personal sound, and you go out in the street, and everybody's wearing the same suit you're wearing. How horrific is that? It's like a lady who goes to a ball with her slick dress. She walks in the door, man, there are 5 ladies wearing the same dress. I felt like that sometimes. I said, man, wait a minute. Who's who here? So as soon as Attila offered me this chance to help him make some strings that I thought would make me sound like what I thought I wanted to sound like when the bass came out, that bass case, I was all over it, man. And I thank him for trusting my commentary because it wasn't always good because the strings weren't always good. They'd break easily. They were too bright. They were uneven in their playing sound. Their harmonics were false most of the time. That woofing and stuff that strings go through as they're being developed and being made commercially available for everybody, not just me or a teller on guitar. So he trusted me, and I trusted his sense of my honesty. And I tried different sets of strings. I want to see what else is available, and I always come back to those because they have the sound that make me sound like me. Sorry, guys. All you string makers out there, too late. Mr. Hicks, is that okay? Okay, they were black. No, they were not black coated steel. They were black wound.
Black World.
Yeah, and they don't roll over like some of the poor wound strings do. Occasionally the winding comes loose and they begin to unravel. So the quality is fantastic, man. I've been using it again since over 35 years, and the quality is always guaranteed. All I got to do, Rick Hicks, is find the right notes for him. And so far, got decent grades, I think. You're welcome. Thank you. And thanks for joining us in the square, Mr. Square. I'm not saying you're square, man, but you're in my squares. I got a whole list of them. You just one of many squares. Thank
Right.
you, Rick. Good to see you. All right, here's one from David O. Just plain O. David, wherever you are, I'm going to try to get this question right because it's an interesting one, as they all are. I have noticed, this is David's voice, I have noticed in many of your albums that you incorporate rhythms and tunes from countries like Brazil and Cuba. How has Latin music influenced your playing and composing over the years? And do you listen to any great, did you ever listen to the great Latin bassists like Cachao? My voice. Well, David, just gotta have fun, all these squares in front of me, man, you know? Uh, I like rhythms. I get pretty annoyed when they say to the bass player, hey man, play Latin on this tune. But it's just you. I think they don't understand what makes Latin rhythms so special is that they have three violins, two guys singing, a drum set, three conga players, a percussion player playing a clave, somebody with a tambourine with a shaker somewhere nearby, and a guy playing congas and bongos. Now that's the Latin sound. So when I get a part that says play Latin, it's just me and the piano. I ask them. I'm a little embarrassed because I really can't do what you call Latin. I've always enjoyed hearing those guys play the montunas they come up with, and I just Carlos with the Renton Marcellus band. I mean, I listened to them play, and I said, they got this two chords forever, and they're just killing it, you know. Uh, I met Kachow at a rehearsal, and he's just as a nice a man as he could be, and what a wonderful player he was, and innovating what he did to the Latin bass sound and the bass choice of notes on those forever montunas. I love that stuff, man. I just happen to have a song that has that flavor, but I'm not trying to be in their house. I'm just kind of walking down the street by this room neighborhood, you know. Uh, Brazilian music is a little bit different. I've had a lot of experience playing that, and I've played with some of the wonderful players. Edson Machado, who is given credit for inventing the Brazilian bossa nova drum beat and the drum sound. I played with Ayrton and Louis Bonfá. He's a wonderful guitar player. Portinho. I know all those guys personally. We made a lot of records together, so I'm really at home with their music concept and with the rhythms. I've always been curious as to why I have been so comfortable playing a rhythm and tune is not part of my heritage, my background. So I really look forward to when I got a chance to go down to Brazil. I said, now's my chance to be an ethnomusicologist. I want to find out how this stuff happens. So I get to the hotel, Hilton. Well, okay, but it's hotel. And I turn on the radio. Anybody run the radio? Is there anybody in this squares? Raise your hand if you know what a radio is. Okay, that's 3 out of 6. That's 3 out of 7. 3 out of 12. Okay, this is for you three guys. Then I turn on the radio, and I hear the music, and it sounds like it says Desi Fernando. I know that song. So I said, well, now I'm going to hear what I should be doing. I'm hearing the guys who made this music what it was. I'm just a guy walking through the house. I try to turn the radio and turn it on kind of semi-loud because it's just me in the hotel at the time of morning. And the guitar player sounds like little Pat Metheny. And I said, wow, check that out. And the bass player's playing a line I play with Bonfire on that with Carlo Antonio Jobim on Stoneflower. I said, wait a minute, guys. I want to find out how you do what you do. Well, we like what you do. I said, okay. So I lost my job and lost my job title. They took it off my, no more ethnomusicologist for you. Just keep playing the bass. So I did. The rhythm is great. I have a nice feel for it. I love the harmony. I love the melodies. And it seems to me that the bass drum that they play doesn't get in my way. I just love that music. Do I have a special affinity for it? I think I like all good rhythms. Isn't that a song like that? God's got good rhythms. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'm just kind of that's for the other squares who know those kind of tunes. Um, so David, I made a record by the way called When Skies Are Gray. So David, find that record on YouTube somewhere, and you find it. You email me by way of this magazine, this subscription that you've joined, and I'll tell you about that record. It's a Latin jazz record, by the way, with Harvey Mason, Steve Kroon, a wonderful Latin percussionist, and Stephen Scott. Buy that record, man. It's a wonderful record called When Skies Are Gray. Okay, Lawrence. Lawrence is LAU. All right. Uh-oh. There's my stockbroker. Hold on a minute here. Sorry, that's my sock broker. You know. Okay, Lawrence, sorry for the interruption. I recently purchased your Autumn Leaves transcription cartography and was wondering your advice on ways to practice and applying it. Well, Lawrence, the first thing you have to do is just sit down with it. This book, for those of you who haven't purchased it, shame on you other guys. It looks like this. I'll hold the finger. I'll hold it. I got patience. Take your time writing the title.
Screenshot.
And when you open it up, it looks like this. And what it is, it's analysis. It is and my analysis of me using that song "Autumn Leaves," played in five different performances with the same band. And the purpose of this chartography book is to show you how a bass line evolves and develops for five concerts with the same rhythm section. You will find that when you purchase this book, there's a little square at the top of each incident that's called a QR code. If you scan that, it shows you hear the page that you're looking at. The point of this book is to show you how valuable a transcription can do if it's complete. I've seen many transcriptions of bass players' lines, Ray Brown, Christian McBride, Richard Davis, but it's just a chorus. My attempt in this book called Chartography is to show you what a bass line happens for the whole chorus, for the whole song, for four choruses, and what happens when the song is played again, and again, and again, times four. So you can get to see how the bass notes affect the pianist, in this case, Herbie Hancock. You hear how my rhythms affect Tony Williams, the drummer. You hear how it makes Miles Davis not really so aggressive because he doesn't know what's coming out of this bass player in the band because he's the only one there playing the bass. It must be okay because he's still here. Uh, it analyzes how they respond to my growth and then my development of this bass line. So, Lawrence, the best way to practice this chartography, CHARTOGRAPHY, is not play with it. Don't play with it at first. Just sit down and see how it develops. That's the whole point of this book. I want you to see how a bass line that starts in April, what it sounds like 4 months later, what it sounds like 4 months after that, with the same band, the same tune, but now it's got a whole nother outlook, whole nother harmonic progression, whole nother rhythmic event taking place. And I want you to hear how my bass line development affects what the piano, drums, and the band leader, in this case Miles Davis, how it affects what their choices are. Uh, to rather than have you get involved in trying to play that, I want you to play you. But this is a good example on how I got to be me. And if you follow these examples carefully, you can see how I have developed and make these ideas I came across at a concert in 1963, that the same concept I remembered. I remembered. And I remember to try it again later on at the next gig, which happened to be whenever this next performance was. So again, the idea of this book, Lawrence, is to have you see how a bass line develops and evolves and how much impact it has on the band, including the band leader. Practicing it live, okay, but I think you find much more enjoyment, and the lesson is much more long term for you, just to see how a line develops and can you adopt that kind of concept, not necessarily my notes or not necessarily my rhythm, but can you see how I use them in certain places at certain times on certain keys, certain chords, certain parts of the tune? This is what bass lines do to have a life. This gives him the bass line to control of the band. If you've read my book, you know somewhere in that book it says Miles Davis is clearly the band leader, but I'm leading the band, and don't you forget it. Okay, let's go to another question here. From Eva, who is 14 years old. I hope you're still awake.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Hello. Sorry. Did I wake you up?
No.
Okay. Okay. So, Eva, 14, I want to get some insight on how I can grow as a musician. I have a question for you, and my brother has a question for you. So I'll answer yours first. You know, I take that word grow literally, you know. When my students who have kind of gotten into the world and start making gigs and start to travel, they ask me for some advice. I tell them three really simple things. One, eat a very good breakfast because you don't know when the next meal is going to show up. Two, when the gig is over, go home. Get some sleep because you don't know when the next chance will be to get a quiet night. The third thing, Eva, is when you go to work, expect that this could be a night to play some wonderful music, whenever that night is, wherever it is. One of the things I learned about that Miles band was I went to work every night for 5.5 years expecting some great music. You can't get three better than that. If you do, you tell me. I want to see if I can get better at it. Okay, listen, now your brother has a question, is what is the magical process that happened in the studio that allowed you to be on so many records and allows you to keep creating today? Um, I mentioned earlier, I'm always surprised that when I get these calls for these various projects, they're from people who I don't know. I never met them before. I never been to their gigs. You know, I don't remember them walking into the Blue Note or a jazz club to say, "Hey, man, I never." So evidently, these people who are basically strangers to me have heard enough of what I do through their sources that they think I could help their project do something that they think it needs to have happen for them. Back to my students again. They ask the question, how do I work so much? Well, I like to eat. I like to have nice things. That's to start off. You know, I tell them when I leave my house to go to work, I do two things. One, I leave my ego at home, and two, take a spare set of ears because I want to hear everything. And sometimes ego doesn't allow you to hear only about what you hear. I like to try to hear in the cinema scope, you know, that round thing like this. I want to hear like that. And the ego kind of makes it stop right here with my ear. You know? And the more I can hear this picture, the more choices I have. And with a big ego, you just have one choice, yours. Eva, and what's your brother's name?
My brother's name is Sebastian.
Sebastian. My job, my job when I go to work is to leave this gig and have this guy miss me. I want him to say, "Gee, wasn't that a wonderful time? Wonderful bass player." I want him to say that with the right notes. I can own that guy, or gal. They work too, you know. Um, growing is a general problem. You know, I think whenever I go to work, Eva, if I may call you Eva,
Yes, it
I
is.
look to get
Mr.
better.
Carter.
Look to get better every night. That means growing. That means understanding what the choices are. Understand that what my friends on the band, what do they need to sound good? What can I help them to do like this? Not day after tomorrow, not next, now. Am I willing to not play what I really hear to help them sound good? You know, I've kind of gotten a reputation earned as a guy who doesn't play the roots. You know, and I've been on gigs where the guy keeps saying he wants some roots. You know what a root is?
Mhm.
Okay. I tell those guys there's a market down the street on 14th Street and 3rd Avenue. They're open all night. They got whole nothing but roots there, man. They're waiting for somebody like you know. After they get over that, I give them a root. One. That's enough. That's how you grow. That's the result of being older, being experienced, being comfortable with you, with not feeling you have to prove anything to anybody other than what you do is what you do. You know, being a nice person. You know, one of the I'm not sure. I've read through some of these questions and I haven't read them all. But at some point, someone always asks, "What do you want what do you want on your tombstone?" You know, a simple question is I want them to say, "He was an average bass player, but a dear friend." I can live with that. Sebastian, you stay well and let me know how you do with your music. Stay in touch. Eva, thank you very much.
I'm going to
Thank you,
jump in here
sir.
for 1 sec.
Say again?
I'm going to jump in here for 1 sec because
Okay.
I'm going to give you a 1 minute break. I want to say a lot of people are coming in the chats of how do you ask a question, and these questions were pre-submitted. So I don't know if we'll get to all the pre-submitted ones, but I'm going to save the chat and we will do these things again. And any pre-submitted ones, Mr. Carter will answer you directly over the next week or so. So we have a couple of questions to ask you, and everybody should see it. If you don't mind, just let us know your answers.
Meanwhile, I go get a glass of water.
I thought it might be a good time.
I'm back. I'll be back.
Wait, wasn't that a rose?
Okay. I guess everybody who's going to vote has voted, yes? So thank you. And there are the results. And now we can go back to the main event. Okay. Maestro.
The main event is coming. I have a question from George K. I think, George, we owe you a vowel. Here, just call Vanna White and see if you can buy a vial for $25. Yeah, buy an E, okay? But George's question is, uh, you recently said your string height is measured with the diameter of a number two pencil. Where on the fingerboard do you measure that height? At the bridge end or the deepest part of the curve? Uh, I've put it at the end of the fingerboard.
Gotcha.
My concern is that, of course, I like that height for me because it lets me make the bass vibrate. I think as bass players understood what it was like to play fast and what kind of attention that got to them by that display of skill, they lowered the strings and make that playing fast on that much more easy to do. Okay. What they sacrificed, however, Mr. K, was making the bass body have enough energy put into it by playing the strings a certain height to make the body vibrate to its optimum. So they got a pretty small sound because they put forth not much effort in the strings to make the strings make the bass do like this.
Gotcha.
And I found that that height is generally what I try to keep it when as the weather changes, as the weather allows. Thank goodness for the lifters and the bass things. Uh, do I consider the length of my fingers on your right hand a big factor in getting your sound? No. Did I read that question correctly?
Yes, yes, you did.
Uh, I think one of the reasons I may have a big sound, Mr. K, uh, is the amount of coordination I have between the right and left hand that allows me to have the notes ring a little bit longer and have a little less, have a longer sound before it begins to naturally decay. It's when I move this hand and this at the certain kind of unison that allows me to have the string to ring longer and seem louder because I'm controlling the length of that note all the time. I think that I may not be the heaviest physical player, but I doubt that too many guys have the coordination between these two hands that I have that allows the bass sound as loud as it is. Uh, like everybody else, Mr. K, I fooled around with different bridges and sound post adjustments and all that stuff, and I decided that while that's a part of the bass's evolvement, so to speak, uh, I thought that was missing the boat for me. I thought that it was as much what am I hearing rather than what am I trying to make the bass do, you know? And I thought that once I got a sound that I was happy with, I had to figure out what could I do to make this sound all the time. And one thing I settled on was the same set of strings. I was going to stop being curious and like what I had because I had a good feeling with them. Make these strings help me sound a certain way.
Okay.
Where on my bass would this note sound better? Would I rather play C on the E string or C on the A string for the sound of that note? Do I want to close on that? Do I want a harmonic G on do I want a harmonic G on the G string or do I want to press it down for that note?
Mhm.
That kind of detail has always been curious to me, and I tried to figure out how to make the bass do those kinds of things that maybe other players have had other interests that didn't go in that direction. You know, those guys you mentioned are really wonderful players. Dave, and Reggie Workman and Ray. They're all good players, man. I like to hear them. They took the bass somewhere for them, and my way is not necessarily their way, but we certainly have under a great respect for each other's point of view. Again, so my point of view is that one of them. Where can I get the best note sound on this bass? Do I want to play F sharp on the D string, fourth finger, or F sharp on the A string? And while I'm there, what notes are there? So I'm clearly a horizontal player, Mr. K. I don't do this at all. I tell my students that's for the guys in the camera. They want that connect. Man, he's really playing that bass, man. Look at him down this thing. I say, yeah, get out of here, man. That costs more. I have to change shirts every night. I'm not gonna do that stuff, man. I want to go like this. You know, it looks like I'm falling off of a log, but it's really hard to do that. But it's really you really got to know the bass. one of the people who influenced that concept, Mr. K, was J.J. Johnson. I used to watch him play when I was in school. He came to the gig where I was working, and he played with his band. He never went. He never went past the bell, but twice a night. I said, "No, wait a minute. Is he playing that, or is he taping that stuff? What's going on with that guy?" I used to call him Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, what are you doing up there? You know, he just learned the instrument so well, and the intervals he had were so available to him with his skill level. He didn't need to do this all night to get that kind of thing. And I said, well, if it's possible on trombone, as complicated as the overtone series is, the bass is not so complicated. It must be just as easy to have that kind of skill level and not need to do this all night to find the notes that I think I hear that are going to be good notes. So I got started going across like that. And in my book, The Comprehensive Bass Player, it describes how I do that. So
I
I would
have,
I would recommend you to get that book and the chartography to see how I find these notes and in the spur of the moment. There's no rehearsal, there's no written parts out. Stuff is going on all the time. The mouse is not playing, he is playing, Herbie's hitting the chord, or he's not hitting stuff. And because I have a pretty decent skill level that allows me to find these notes I hear with a relatively high amount of consistency, and I accept the damage that it does. Because that's what it's supposed to do, man. It's supposed to mess everything up. And my job is to fix it day after tomorrow. Okay?
yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I'm gonna send you an E, by the way, for your last letters. That's pretty soon, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, another question here. Um, this from Adavit from Singapore. How has your bass playing evolved over the past 6 decades? I think one of the things that has helped me grow, back to Ava's question, is I'm starting to understand how important the bass is in ensembles and what responsibility that is. I tell my students, I read this list for you. I tell my students that each note that we bass players play, it does seven things. One, it announces what chord we're playing. Two, it shows what the form is. This the bridge, the beginning of the tune, the first ending, second ending, whatever. It gives you the real tempo. I'm often asked, do I play ahead of the beat or behind the beat? Neither one of those. If the guy does this, man, he's going to hear this from me until he can't stand it. And at the end of the night, I want him to leave the bandstand with tire marks on his back because my time is so there. I want that to happen to him. Number four, every note I play affects the groove. The Latin, there's that word again, man. The samba is a Brazilian beat. Is it four, playing the businessman bounce? What is that? My notes tells that. Intonation, pitch. I want the guys to know that when I play a C, man, that's what that is. Go to the piano and check it out. But that's that note. The pitch is important for me. I think one thing that's important is the presence. I want them to know that there's a bass player in this band. And this bass player has this kind of skill level, however you define skill, it changes from person to person, to command their attention. And on a great night, I can demand their attention. I love those nights, man. Bring them on. Yeah. Now you're in my house, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we are. This is what this gig is all about. Tonight, this is all about theory class. Okay? Here it is. That. Every note I play has those 6 items. And as I've gotten to understand that responsibility, my playing has gotten better. At some point, there was a rumor that Miles Davis, before he left the concert, was going to put together the quintet for another tour. And I was just hoping that would happen. Not because of the money, I want to show these guys how better I got. I'm saying to them, I don't know what you guys did, man, but this is what I've been doing for the past 40 years. Check me out. I got better sound, it's more consistent. I understand harmony better. I know the bass better. I'm more confident that what I can do to make the band go my way harmonically, rhythmically, or physically. Yeah, I learned all that stuff in the past 50 years, guys. Welcome to my theory class. Unfortunately, Miles passed away and it never came to fruition. So that's how I've grown in the past 60 years, Mr. Singapore. And I look to go to work when this intermission is over. I like to call this pandemic. I look to go to work again and I go back to theory class with these guys and gals so I can see if I heard over this 15-month layoff stuff that's still valuable. And we'll see how much I've grown and my ability to retain this information and share just like this. That's how I've grown in the past 60 decades. I look for even more growth as we continue to try to play this music we call jazz. Okay. Let's see, another question here. Um, um, Next time, people make shorter words. Uh, Here's John Restivo. I'm not sure what this is. Have you seen any of the Stickman episodes on YouTube? I don't know who that is or what that is. I saw 3 of them, and your name comes up every time. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I sent that as a message. David Garibaldi and Lenny White and a couple other drummers put this YouTube thing together called Stickmen, and I watched 3 episodes, and your name comes up every damn time. And they talk to you as like the captain. They mention you as you're the guy, and you got to do that thing. Like you got to do. I just.
Well, check it out.
I'm surprised that I didn't even know if that was a question. I didn't.
No,
But it was just so wonderful that when they speak of you, when they play with you about how, like you were saying, like Miles Davis is the band leader, but you're the god. You know,
Yeah.
I'm the same guy that was at the Milestone Jazz concert. I sent you those pictures of the book.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
gonna post those on, I
Yes.
think it's June 21st on the anniversary of the concert.
Yes.
If you look on Facebook, you'll see that.
Thank you. Yes. You know, fortunately, my light is poor, but you would see me a nice maroon right now. You know.
Those guys love you. Those guys love you. Man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I them with all the heart and spirit that we can have. They deserve all of that from me. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I got a lot out of that. Well, this has been wonderful. You're a wonderful human being. It's just so great to hear you. Thanks.
More. Don't take that.
Could I ask you one thing with Al Foster when they didn't give him a billing on that Milestone Jazz Stars, like Al Foster. It was like Rollins, McCoy Tyner, Ron Carter, and then I met Al Foster once at the Iridium. He was just a wonderful guy.
Yes, I love playing with him. Yeah, I have great time playing with him. One of the things he likes me to do when he was playing with him to play that figure, he just played on the snare drum. Back at him, only use certain notes to make a real figure, harmonic figure rather than just a rhythmic event. You know. Yeah, I love Al Foster. He's one of my most sensitive drummer friends. He's got a great snare drum sound, man. It's just as crisp as it can be. Just sparkles, man. I love that stuff, man. It doesn't get in my way. Range. It's articulate. It's interesting. Yeah, I love that stuff, man. Yeah.
So that was a good time for you?
They're all good times, man.
Yeah, thank you. God bless you. Yeah, wonderful. Thanks.
And I try to have good time for those people right here.
Yeah.
One other question here. What is it? from Leonardo Miotti. Leonardo, this question is, how much is important the silence and the pauses in the music? That depends on who's playing. We always think that less is more given the band's personality and the activity harmonically or physically or rhythmically they all have, but we hope that there's enough air, there's enough space in the solos or the melody to allow us to go like this, not that be a note. Yeah. One of the things I like to do, Leonardo, is to play a bass line, and if they watch me play the line, they see me take a breath as I'm walking this bass line because I'm playing a sentence. I'm playing a commentary to them, only in quarter notes. They could watch me breathe as I play this bass line. They'll see where I think the pause is necessary as I'm constructing this bass line. Now, certain guys and girls, they may play over that. It may not impress them at all. They're missing the chance to play some good music with me then, because that comment tells me I have another direction to take, and it gives me a chance to shift my gears. They're not allowing that to happen sometimes. So my job is to not get upset and try to find a better way to get their attention, short of screaming at them or grabbing their tie. That- That's always plan B. And when I say that, I mean plan B in small letters, lowercase. You know. But I think that space is very important to give the music a chance to breathe. Music needs this. It doesn't always need this. To be successful. And the older guys learned that. The younger guys have yet to understand if you don't play it, maybe okay not to leave, not to play all the time. You know, to determine to be visible and audible all the time. Well, sometimes that's a little bit too much. I think as they get older, they realize that too much. Let's just kind of take a breath here, wait two more beats before I do this, as they have learned not so much how to conserve their energy, but how to conserve their phrases and make the musicality have a chance to be musical. The next phrase shouldn't be a matter of knocking everybody out with a stick, but like playing badminton rather than tennis, you know? Wow, it's getting kind of deep this time. Like, all these squares looking back at me too. Okay, Eva's still awake. My goodness. Okay, let me find another one here. Hmm. Franco says, how can we make our walking bass lines not so repetitive? That is a very
Hi,
easy one. Oh, there you are, Franco. How are you? Can
fine, thank you.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Scarabaglione.
Okay, now you got extra E there. You give it to George for me. I saved you $25. George, I got to E for your last name. So, Uh, that's one of the easiest questions I've had all night, Franco, because that's what I do for a living, make the lines not sound repetitive. What I recommend you do is get my book, The Comprehensive Bass Method, and it tells you a process that I use. Starts with assuming you have in your head a vision that when you see the chord B flat on the bass, B flat on the staff, you see B flat D F. What I see, Franco, is B flat, D, F, B flat on the I see F on the E string, B flat on the A string, open D, F on the D string, and B flat on the G string. I see 5 choices for the first beat. Multiply 5 choices times 4 beats. That's 20 choices for the first beat. Just quarter notes, man. Multiply that times 40 times 12 bars. How can you play the same thing over and over again? I think what happens, Franco, and I don't know, I've heard you play, but I think you kind of lose sight of the changes after the first chorus or so. That means that maybe you don't really know that song and really don't know what chords there are in that song. when I was teaching college at City College of New York in 2020 was my last year, I taught composition and theory. One of my exam questions, Franco, was we would have to discuss 8 tunes in the course of the semester. And I would sit down with them in the class during the last exam, say, okay, now I will give you each one song of our 8 to write me a complete lead sheet. I mean, they had to have the bars correct, the time signature, the key signature, the changes, and the melody correct without having your instruments in their hands. A lot of them didn't pass the test. They never learned the form. They never learned the changes. And for a bass player who wants to have a varied bass line, B-A-S-S line, he needs to learn the B-A-S-E, bass of the song. That's the form and the changes. That sounds so uncomplicated. But you guys say, man, I run out of stuff to play. I'm saying, what? I played so what for Miles Davis, man, every night for 5.5 years. Can you imagine me saying, hey, Miles, I can't think of nothing else. Can you change the tune? You know what he would have said? Taxi. Taxi. Over there. He's looking for, yeah, that. Come on. We don't do that. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, now what you have to do is get that book, man, and check it out because it's a wealth of knowledge there on how I make my notes, how I find them. Yeah.
If you look in the chat, I put the link to that book and also to the chartography book.
Okay, another question here. Let me see. Sergey, Sergie. Are you there somewhere?
Hello,
Hi, there he is. How are you?
I'm fine in Moscow night.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
wow. Am I talking too loud for your neighborhood? Should I talk like
No, it's okay. It's okay.
that? Are you sure it's okay?
I sit in my kitchen and nobody around.
Okay, I'll talk like this. The question is, why did you choose the bass? Well, it had nothing to do with music, and actually it had to do with, Sergey, what I thought was right. When I was in high school, in the high school orchestra, the Board of Education would have events every now and then, and they wanted to hire. They would have one of the local high schools provide music for this event. PTA meeting, those kind of educational events. And they would often come to my school, Cass Tech, to put together an ensemble for these events, you know. At the time, I was a very, very good cellist. I was 17, something like that. I was really playing really great, man. But whenever they had these events, they never called me. So in January of 1955, I looked around and said, now the bass player's graduating, and he's the only one back there. If I'm playing the bass, aha. Aha. Watson, I think I have found it. So I traded my cello in, owed some money for it. I took care of that. I got bass lessons. I got a scholarship to the Eastman School of Music as a bass player. And here I am, man, still playing the bass. Actually, not for the past 15 months, but you know what I mean. That's the story how I got to be a bass player.
Thank you very much.
Next question is, do I regret having that be the process? I resent that being the process. Regret is something different. I don't have that kind of feeling. I resent that they took my life away. I practiced since I was 11 to be a concert cellist. I'd gone from teacher to teacher who could help me get better. They would say, "Yeah, you're too good for us. Let me find another teacher for you. I can't do more for you." But for 3 or 4 different teachers, some from 11 to 17, you know. And so to have the feeling that all that work is not acceptable and not okay, you know, and my only outlet to be still playing what I hear is to change instruments because these guys don't call me for work that I'm entitled to. What? I have special words to say that, but right now with too many squares looking at me, I won't say those particular language skills. That they're pretty evil. Would hang up the phone and Sebastian would come to my house and say, "Hey man, Sebastian, it's okay," you know. Yeah. So I resent it. I don't have it. You know. They say after all these years, say yes. We're talking about a lifetime for a 12-year, 13-year-old to not to be able to do what they practiced for 6 years, pour their heart out, man, and find out that that's not enough. Yes, of course I'm upset. I think if I wasn't upset, I probably wouldn't be so. I wouldn't play so good. I think somewhere back here, Sergio, I'm determined in my most personal thoughts to tell all those people who thought that I wasn't the guy. You made a mistake. You made a big one. People would say, you made a boo-boo. And I'm still here trying to play the bass. That. Do you play bass, Sergey?
Yes, but I play on electric bass.
That's okay.
But my teacher, when I study in college, play on contrabass like you and my teacher is a big fan of you and I big fan of you. But I play electric bass.
Okay, I'm not offended, and don't apologize. No, neither one of those. Yeah, you know, I think certain things are built into our system, our emotional system, and I think this wiring in our system doesn't allow certain things to no longer be important to us. You know, one of the things, several things I miss of not working on the bandstand, Sergio, is not being able to give instructions to anybody. As a band leader, I'm naming the tune. I'm Luca. Do me a favor. Raise your hand, Luca. Are you still there? Okay. I'm gonna count off things that I do. You raise your hand for each one of these things I tell you I do every night. That's a band leader, okay? One of the things I do is on the bandstand, I count the tune off. One.
Oh, okay, one. Okay.
I determine how long the solos are. I determine who solos. I determine what key the song is. I determine how fast the song is. I determine what ties everybody wears. That. Now, I miss not having those options. Right now, my job is to take out the garbage at 9 in the morning. Do the dishes when they're done. To that. I miss the responsibility there, you know. And I'm sure those guys are loving it. He's not, huh? He's not, I'm on my own now, Mr. Maestro's gone. Okay, we got this. But Maestro's coming back. You know, I got a new downbeat for you guys. Bam, classes in session. Classes in session. You know, I miss those things, and I'm looking forward to getting back to being a band leader. You know, and enjoying all the pressures that come with that. Okay. Luke, you have a question? Since I embarrassed you, do you have a question?
If I have a question,
Yeah.
first of all, I wanted to say that I'm really honored to be here. And here in Italy, it's 2 a.m. And even though tomorrow I have to go to school, I said to myself, no, it's too important to me. That's this possibility, Ron Carter. So I don't mind. So I'll go to school a bit. Yeah, sleepy, but that's not a problem to me.
Thank you for
This is
being
a dream becoming true to me.
Thank you. Do you have a question in the meantime?
Yeah, I had a question and was, do you have any tips for young musician? Because in my case, I'm a guitarist, and but that's not my profession. In my spare time, I play guitar, and I don't know. I'm in this pandemic. I played a bit, but I don't have time because I have to study. I study Latin and Greek,
Yeah.
so it's a bit.
Okay. Let
So,
me
do you have any tips?
a couple of recommendations to you. I know these are very difficult times for everyone. You know, I haven't played a gig, man, since March 6th of 2000. That's a that's a very long time.
2020.
2020. Yeah. You know, and so I understand the frustration and how annoying it is to hear sounds in your ear and not find anywhere to put them out. Okay. So let me recommend a couple of things for you. I don't know who your favorite guitar players are, but let me recommend you do this. The record Jim Hall and Ron Carter live at Village West. You got that? Live at Village West, me and Jim Hall. Okay. Another one, Wes Montgomery, So Much Guitar. Bill Frisell, Down Home with Arthur Blythe, Joey Barron, and me. It's called Down Home. I recommend you listen to those three records because the styles are so significantly different. You know, I want you to hear how different they are, man, and how they work for each one of those guys. Not just them playing guitar, but the groups that they're playing in. Yeah. And now I'm not asking you to copy them. I'm asking you to understand what makes their music work. You know, I imagine you know the term cobwebs, and you got some up here, I'm sure. They'll take them out for you. There's one right there, another one. Alone Together with Jim Hall and me. That's a nice record. So that'll help you kind of get some balance in your music life despite not playing much. I understand that. And I know what I can only imagine at 17, 18, how frustrating it is not to be able to rip and run and go somewhere, you know. I'm kind of past that. I'm kind of past that lifestyle. Yeah, I'm not. I'm ripping and running by a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm kind of right there, you know. I'm talking to a bunch of squares right now, so you know I'm kind of in that zone. So I'm not that kind of zone right now, but I understand the need to exert that kind of get that kind of energy going. I need you to get some energy going up here. I'm trying to make you get some intellectual enthusiasm. So those three records, man, with those three clearly different guitar player sounds and personalities, just to see how they do what they do, man. Try to understand why they're so different. Just don't go to sleep in class. Okay. If you do, tell teacher, email me, and I'll give you an excuse.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, another question here. Let's see. Did you take out the lark garbage? Oh, it's the wrong list. Sorry. Um, Jackie Toth. The question is an interesting question. The question is, the question is, um, what advice do you have for a non-musician fan of music to differentiate between double bass players and their styles? What do you listen? What do you listen to for personally in determining how a certain bass player handles his instrument? Um, well, I can only tell you to look at a bass player from two things. as a non-musician, I'm not sure how much music you don't know or how much you really do know. That's a pretty broad term. I think because you're not playing anything, you think that you're kind of a non-musician. But people hear music, they kind of past that non-musician stage. You know? So if I were you, I would think of a couple of things to see to recommend to look for. One, how is the bass player handling himself on the bandstand? Does he seem comfortable? Does it seem like he's okay being there? Two, can you see how the musicians in the band respond to his presence? I don't mean are they gonna do like this, you know, which is okay, you know. I like that, you know. But do they have that? Do they show respect for his or her presence? When he's playing a solo, do they give that solo, the bass player, their attention? Do they leave the bandstand, or do they stay and watch just exactly what's going on? How does he do that kind of stuff? Those kind of things. If you do that, um, you get Jackie, you get a chance to see how they respond to him, how they respect him, what they look for in this bass player for the night. You can see, is this bass in good condition? Is it banged up? Is it, you know, looking like it's not cared for? You know, those are things that does he maintain his tools? You know, is he the last one up on? Is he the last on animation? Is he the last guy to get on the bandstand? You know, those things tell me that he either didn't care about the gig, he's trying to hang on as long as he can until it's over, or he lost himself to get so distracted by something else other than being ready to go to work for the next set that maybe he feels he shouldn't be there. It's those things that's easy to spot. You know, I won't go on through psychologically the things you can look for, and that I'm not there yet. But just to walk into a room and spend 2 hours with, you can figure these things out and get an impression of the vibe he carries and how his presence is affecting the guys in the band members. You know, I'm happy to say, Jackie, that I kind of command their respect. You know, I have a 16-piece big band. You know, and I call it my 16-piece quartet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I respect all those guys because they really play good. But every night for them is a theory class in the bass section. I love that stuff. Really, I mean, really, I love. Yeah, you know, I take out take out pencil on the blackboard and yeah, I'm good at that. I like that kind of stuff. You know. Okay,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Let's see. Um, Michael Hagmeyer. They at the bottom. Okay, how are you, Michael?
I'm doing great.
Can I read your question?
Absolutely. I'd be honored.
Okay. As a musical late bloomer, uh, that's a kind of double entendre right there, bloomer. You know, but I'll keep going past that one. You know, I've come to appreciate musicians who aren't just great players, but just like some great athletes, seem to make those around them play better. Uh, that's more of a statement than a question. And if the question is, do I feel that there are jazz players who fit that description of them? If I can propose to be a wise guy, I would say it's a good question to ask someone like me. I feel that the quarterback is the bass player is the quarterback of anybody's group. Nothing happens without a good quarterback. I don't care how much money they invested in the band, the quarterback, the big arena. The quarterback is the guy who makes it happen. And while theoretically great players who are not great players make the group better because of them, on some level that's true, but then on a more personal level, it kind of holds the band back because the level in the band is uneven. the interest is uneven, the skill level is uneven, the harmonic, the physical capacity is a little bit the technique is a little bit limited. It's not the same as everybody else in the band. Their experience is not where everybody else is. Those things can hamper a band getting better, depending on how serious the other guys about bringing this person who's lower than they are in the music totem pole into their camp. Are they willing to have the patience to help this guy or gal get better? And while it's no one's job to make that happen, to bring the band along to their level, they all have a piece of that pie because they're on the same stage, trying to play the same songs. I think again, Michael, the guy who's responsible for that vibe, that sense of responsibility of bringing the band together in the broad sense, is the bass player. He's the one who plays all those notes I talked about earlier. He's the one who's playing all the time, and his notes count for everything. He's the guy I think who bears the biggest responsibility in terms of bringing the level of the band. And I've always felt that if the bass player is not equal to the task of everyone's harmonic knowledge, he doesn't play the bass as well as they play trumpet or piano, there's not much he can do except just hang on for dear life because they've already passed his level of concept. And I think that it makes it difficult for everyone to pull this guy along because they are unequal in so many basic areas. The bass player may not know form. He may not know changes to the tune they're playing. Maybe doesn't read music. All these factors, Michael, are important in the as a bass player's situation, physically location in the band. And I think unless the bass player gets improved at the same level and knows his weaknesses and concerns himself with getting better at those points, the band will not get better. They will not get to another level of here. You know? We're talking about night in and night out, man. This stair step of getting better every night. The bass player's not capable of doing that. The band's not going anywhere, man. I don't think so. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Carrie, do you have a question for me?
You have to unmute.
I sent it. Did you?
Excuse me?
I did send one to you.
Well, Carrie, I got papers this deep on my desk with pictures.
Okay. Yeah.
What was yours?
My question was actually, it was more like you read called recording with Wes Montgomery.
Yes.
The tune "I Say a Little Prayer."
Yes.
That tune was very special to me. I was a little kid. I loved Dionne Warwick, but then I hear this recording with Wes and doing the same song that I've always loved, but in a jazz context, that really opened my ears up. And then that beautiful sound you got, that was it. I just absolutely love that sound. And this is prior to me playing any music at all.
Okay.
But that particular song meant a lot to me. So if you have any recollections, anything that you can just kind of reminisce, that'd be great.
First of all, it's my fault that you give me the blame, man. It's my fault. Yeah. Dionne Warwick had nothing to do with it. His mom, give me the weight. Yeah, it's my fault, man. Okay, I got that. West sound, it was so velvety, if you know what I mean. It was so smooth and so perfect. The problem I had playing with him is that
That pedal on the front end.
I was so concerned that his sound would kind of swamp my sound because it was so velvety. So with Wes, I tried to play in a different part of the bass so my sound would still be equal to the task, but it wouldn't be smothered in the Wes Montgomery sound. Excuse me. As I mentioned earlier, these record dates are all going to school for me free, man. I'm getting free class. I'm determined to be heard on these records. They got better equipment to record, so my job is to find out how can I make the bass more record friendly. And Wes, he had such he played octaves and stuff. It was so velvety. It was just like this, man. You know?
Mm.
I had to find a sound that's going to let me be that third note without having to worry about the other two in this octave just wiping me out.
Yeah.
I played in a different part of the bass for Wes Montgomery. That I would play with Jim Hall or Russell Malone or Barney Kessel or Herbie Ellis, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, but he was such a special player and such a creative player. My job is to make that work, man.
Mm.
So and then doing that process, I discovered what sounds are and what it's going to take to make my sound part of Wes Montgomery's record, but still have my sound available to everybody, like you.
Sweet, sweet.
A lovely, lovely man, and I was just so sorry to see him leave so soon. I thought I would love to have heard people hear him more live because in live he was really incredible, man. I mean, the record is what they were, but you see them stretch out all night with a good band, Wynton
Mm.
Kelly, Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb. Man, it didn't get much better than that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I loved him,
Mm.
and I'm sorry he left early because I would have loved sharing him with other people, with a wider audience. You know,
Mhm.
he's gone,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's beautiful.
gone, gone, gone.
Mm.
Okay,
Hmm. Excellent. Thank you.
more than welcome. Gabrielle, are you awake? If I startle you, do you have a question for me? If you unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi Ron Carter. Hi
Hey.
everybody. Gabrielle Wilson, KPFA Radio, Berkeley, San Francisco Bay Area. My question is, you have a lot of quotes out there. I love them. They're profound. I don't know if I can attribute them to you so I can say them on the air. So I was just wondering, one of the quotes I sent in previously in advance, but I guess you don't have it or you don't want to use it. So the favorite one of mine is, I'm from the planet of elegance.
Mhm.
I like that one. Did you say that?
I,
Mr. Carter, did you say that?
I take credit for all the things nice like that.
Okay. Well, how about this one then? This is probably more fitting for this group here. How about if you're not 30 minutes early, if you're not 30 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late.
Absolutely. You got the hours wrong, but the point is the same. The gig is 8 o'clock. You got to walk in at 7. Yes, and I tell my students that if you get there at 7:15, man, it's too late. In New York, you got 5 guys outside waiting for this job, and they're all ready to go to work. Students don't seem to understand that yet. If they're into this, uh, it'll happen when I get there. Well, that's okay if you're from a small city out Midwest and you're the biggest fish in the small pond, but New York's full of big fish. There's something in New York also called
I love it.
and they're
Thank you.
in New York they're hungry. Yeah, they want a fresh meal every day. These guys. One of my other ones, Gabriel, is that no one gets better at sleeping past 10 a.m. That's for the students who tell me they can't make a 9 o'clock class because they worked the night before. Guys, you want to work in New York, man? I have a special phrase for them that I won't share with all these squares looking at me. So it's a deep one. I'd say it one time and they understand that the maestro is pretty serious about being punctual. When we open up with this intermission, I have my students come down to where I'm working. I want them to see how I prepare for the gig. I want them to see how early I am there, how my music stand is in place, how the music's in order, how I have tuned my bass before everybody else's stuff, and ready to have a chance to play some good music tonight. I'm not running in at 5 minutes before the hit time to try to scramble. I can't do that. It's disrespectful to the music. It makes everyone's anxiety level get high because I'm not there when everybody else is supposed to be there. It's just a drag. I think when guys do that, Miss Wilson, I think they're determined to be the focus of attention. And the late guy always gets it. Unfortunately, he doesn't need that kind of attention. He needs to get somebody, he needs to get better at playing the bass or whatever happens to be, in this case, bass player. Yeah. One of the things I'm really happy for, Miss Wilson, is that when I'm 2 minutes later, walking in the door, the band's upset because I'm not that. You know, Mr. Carter, call Maestro. Hello, Maestro. Please, somebody call Maestro. He's not here yet. Yeah, that upsets me, but I understand what I've earned that kind of angst because I'm always on time. Yeah, no one gets better sleep until 10 o'clock. No. And my last one, Miss Gabriel, is that no one hires you to play a great solo. Bass player. No one hires you to play a great solo. They want some serious timekeeping behind them. They want some swing. They want some kind of a rhythm emotion. They want this. They're not looking for this. You know? They want this. Bang, 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 bang. They're not looking for this. Yeah. You give them that, they'll call you back tomorrow. If not, I'll get a call. Hey, Mr. Carter, the person that didn't work out for us, are you available for the next 2 nights? Well, I have to see if my schedule. Yeah, please, we need some help down here. Okay, what time? Send me the book and I'll look over for tomorrow night and we'll work it out. That's called, what's that word? Professional. Yeah, it's called being professional. Sebastian calls professional. Okay. How are you? How's the station?
We're still on lockdown,
wow.
just essential only, and everybody's doing shows from home and
Wow.
submitting them. And hopefully we'll be back in soon.
So this is you're pre-recording this now and playing it tomorrow?
Well, I don't have permission.
Okay. Well,
I would love to take some of this and put it on the air. That would be great. But we don't have your permission, do we?
and I'm not giving you that. I'm just trying to figure out
Oh.
the things that you're doing now, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take some of what the question. I feel like is that free for me to use?
We'll get in touch with you after.
Okay.
I'm sure we can do something. We'll talk.
Awesome,
We'll get in
then.
touch with you after.
And thank you for the interview, Ron Carter.
You're welcome.
My life has been changed ever since. I kid you not.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I was spoke earlier, but that my lighting here doesn't do my blushing justice. Believe me.
Yes, it does.
Well, I walked into that one. Well, I was teasing George about his name having the E. I just got my extra E for his last name, and I just got popped for my light being not blush proof. We'll take 2 more questions, then it's my peanut butter and jelly time at my age group. 2 more questions, let's see. Here's one. What was it like working with Paul Desmond and Connie Kay? Boy, you're talking about heaven. I've always loved Paul Desmond's playing. One of my first jazz gigs was with an alto player who was a Paul Desmond fanatic. He knew all of Paul's licks. He knew all the tunes of Dave Brubeck's records, famous record, Jazz Goes to College. He was a Paul Desmond fiend, if there's lack of a better word. And I've always enjoyed Connie Kay's sound with the Modern Jazz Quartet. It was as precise and as clean and as swinging as could be without being obtrusive. You knew there were drums there. That's all you needed to know because it was so effective and so present and so delightful. So I love playing with that kind of sound. The sound was, you had the little bells up here and the real tight snare drum, and Paul knew how to make a phrase and use some silence. He knew how to trust my notes that were not always being roots on the downbeat. He understood that I've got a plan here. If I trust Ron, he'll take me where he's going to go. I love both those guys, and I would actually make a lesson on different days just so I could stop and play with those guys because they're really wonderful musicians and really, what's the right word? people full of heart and spirit. When they walk into the room, people know that they're bringing some greatness. And that always, I watch that happen. Said, man, these guys walking. They're walking like Mr. Drums and Mr. Saxophone. Just a great look to see that, you know. And anytime Dave around, I'm all over it. And we made some nice records together. I'm just sorry that we didn't play more. You know, I was busy with Miles, and Connie was busy with MJQ, and Paul was busy with Dave Brubeck, and then we had our own direction, you know. But I certainly would look forward to any opportunities I had to play with those two guys, man, because they made playing music fun. You know, not deep, you know, not earth shaking. It was great, and it was fun. I think we kind of lost that character along the way, in some kind of way, you know. In general, it took a turn to a serious avenue. You know, I'm on Fun Street. You know, they're not there yet, or they kind of lost that route to get to Fun Street. You know, and if you don't have fun, man, you can't play anything good music. Not for me. I want to hear the humor in your concept. You know, I want to hear you make lines light up. You know, I want to hear you not play that. I want to hear you play that instead. That's the fun of this music. I think we're missing part of that right now. Okay, having said that, I'm going to have some fun having peanut butter and jelly. And, and believe me, any questions that haven't gotten answered, I assure you that Miss Shellberg will get them to me, and you will hear from me in our very next missive. Is that the right word? Yeah. And the very next missive. Thank you for coming by and giving us a chance to say hello to you all. And it's nice to know that people would stop their time being worried about the pandemic to hear some commentary. Thank you all. Jackie,
Thank you.
and George, and
You.
Franco, and
Thank you.
Hey,
Leslie,
Rick
Tom,
Hicks here, Ron. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Daniel, and Nolan, and
Thanks so
Alexander,
much. Deeply honored. Thank you.
Thank you.
and Sebastian.
Thank you.
iPhones really in your face. And Mouse,
It was a great night, Ron. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you so much for your time.
Thanks, Ron.
Night, everybody.
thank you.
Never forget
Good
it.
night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thomas, Rod, thank you all.